Hey everyone, welcome back to CK Cycles. Well, it's about time I want to try to get my 1984 Honda CB700SC up and running. One of the main issues I need to deal with though is carburation. These are the carbs that came off of the bike, and they have some pretty significant issues I need to deal with. I'm going to take these over to my bench and complete a full inspection so I know what I may be getting into. I also want to confirm jet settings or what jet sizes are in the carbs, and take a look at the intake manifold boots to see if those can be salvaged or need to be replaced. All right, so this is a set of carbs that came off of the bike. Initially, they could probably just use a really good scrubbing, a really good cleaning. There is some rust here on the outer carburetor's diaphragm caps. Those probably could be replaced. Maybe not cleaned up so much, but replaced. All right, so the throttle assembly seems to be working. Here on the back side. All right, so none of the slides are operable. They're stuck in there pretty good, so that would have to be dealt with. Idle adjustment feels good. All of them have their mixture screw caps on there. These all look good. So these probably could be salvaged. Absolutely, they could be salvaged. I did notice though that the intake manifolds here, they are pretty hard. I think that they're going to need to be replaced. As you can see, just to get the carburetors off the bike, the two outer manifolds had to be, unmounted from the cylinder, so that then these could be pulled off. The two center ones still remain on the engine. The insulators here though look pretty good. I think those can be salvaged, but I think certainly it would be prudent. Yeah, these are looking pretty dry. The O-rings here on the manifolds and on the insulators are dried up and rotten pretty good. Probably look at those under a magnifying glass and they'll probably have cracks all over them. So here's the deal. These are the original cards. Are they savable? Certainly they probably could be, but the bike also came with another set of carbs, and I guess these carbs were pulled off of a running bike, so they should be easily serviceable. All of the slides are moving as they should. They feel good. From what I can tell, it probably feels like the diaphragms are operating well, the springs and everything. Throttle assembly is good. Idle adjustment is good. It's missing, these are missing one of the caps. Oh, this is probably interesting. See if I can get these two set up. Like that. Okay, so if you notice here, here's a difference I see. These carburetors, the ones off of the bike, all have their mixture control screw caps, which include these limiter tabs, so they can only be turned so far one way and so far the other way. If not, they run into the cross member here. All of those caps are in place. On the replacement carbs though, take a look at this. Number one, we're missing a cap. And number two, these are the same caps, and I'm not sure if you can see, maybe I'll try to get a close-up photo of this, but all of the caps have their limiter tabs broken off. So I am curious about the jetting differences between these two sets of carburetors. I mean, perhaps there's no differences, or perhaps there are some. Maybe these carbs here, the replacement carbs, were rejetted, try to hop up the performance of the bike a little bit, and when the rejet occurred, they needed to, adjust the mixture screws. So these were broken off purposefully. I am not sure, but that's an interesting difference. So first thing I'm going to do is to take these carburetors apart, take a look at the internals on them. Also, mainly pay attention to the jetting. I was able to write down here, the main jet should be a 115, slow jet should be a number 35. And so I am going to take a look at the jets, the main here in the original carb, the slow in the set of original carbs, and then what are the jets in these replacement carburetors here, the main and the slow, and just kind of compare the two, and I'll compare those to stock as well. Okay, let's get these opened up. Pretty varnished up. Yeah, pretty sticky. None of the float posts are broken. That's good. All of the jets are pretty scummy. I'm going to have to pull those out and get those clean just so I can see what they are. All right, let's see if I can clean a few of these up and figure out what sizes they are. That is a 35. So I do have a 35 in the slow jet. It's on the side, it looks like here. $115. Original carburetors. I have a 35 slow jet and a 115 main jet. Let's take a little bit closer look at these replacement carburetors that I have. I think I already discussed that these carburetors have their this limiter screw missing and limiter tabs on the screws missing, which causes me to believe that perhaps the jets have been messed with inside the carburetors. But on top of that, these carburetors have got this vent tubing attached to them. These are the carbs that came off of the bike. Let's see here, there we are. So these carburetors have a port installed in them on the intake manifold side of the carburetors. Carburetors that came off of the bike have, I guess I would call a port blanks molded into them, but these ports are not drilled out and don't have a vent tube nipple sticking out of them like these carbs. This leads me to believe that these carburetors are off a bike that was originally manufactured and sent to California. I think that California had different emission standards back in the day, and although some of the emission standards are the same between the two bikes, a California model and a non-California model, such as crankcase venting and jetting. I believe the jetting was done purposefully lean to help with emissions. The California bike had an additional feature which took vent gases from the fuel tank and circulated them through the carburetors, probably so that those vent gases would not just pour out into the environment. So I think that these are California carbs. So given the fact that it looks like the mixture screws have been messed with, these are California carbs, I would not be surprised
if we're dealing with some different jetting between the bikes, even though at stock, both set of carbs should have the standard jets of a 115 main and a 35 slow. So let's take a look inside, and let's take a look at the condition of the carburetors inside, and let's see what we have as far as jetting goes. The initial inspection, the carbs look really good, really clean. Probably just a spray out of some carb cleaner, making sure all of the passages and everything are clean. The jets are clean. Should probably be pretty good. Let's see what size jets we have in this set of carbs. That is a number 38. All right, so replacement carbs have a 38 slow jet. And a 118 main jet. I'm going to assume that the 118 versus the 115 is a little bit larger jet. I probably should double check that. And I'm assuming the 38 is a little bit larger than a 35. I should probably double check that just to make sure that as the numbers go up, the jets get bigger. But that tells me these carbs were probably set up for a little bit of a richer mixture. And I don't know if a 115 to a 118 is 3 steps bigger or just kind of 1 step bigger. Same with a 35 to a 38. Is that 3 steps bigger or 1 step bigger? So I'm going to do a little bit of research on the jetting just to see if I can find anything in regards to the jetting sizes, and so I can kind of know how much of a difference was in there. So all in all, what I think I am going to do once I confirm what's going on with the jetting, I'm going to definitely utilize these carbs. I do not believe that the bike that I have, which I think is a non-California bike, has the other additional parts on it that this fuel tank vapor venting system would capture. I think there might be like a charcoal canister and some other parts that go along with this emissions setup. I don't think that my bike has that. So I'm going to use these carbs. I'm going to get them cleaned up, but I will probably cap off these extra ports that are here in these carburetors to seal those up. Carb kits have arrived. These are the parts included in the kits that I bought. I'm really only kind of interested in a few parts here, mostly these small O-rings and washers that seal around the mixture screws. So I wanted those. I was also interested in replacing the springs that go on the mixture screws. And also the float bowl gaskets here, or valves. I would like to use or put some new ones in. The rest of this stuff I will keep on hand in case I need it. I've decided that I am going to go with the original mixture screws. These are the screws included in the kit, and setting them up next to the originals. The shoulder length, the tip profile look slightly different. I could be wrong. That's just with the naked eye, so I'm not going to use these. And I have decided that I am going to go with the slightly oversized slow and main jet that were originally in these California carbs. So I'm going to do a little bit larger jet. I soaked the jets, my jet tubes and everything, in carb cleaner for a few days, and they are all cleaned out, ready to go. So first thing I'm going to do is to get the mixture screws installed, and that'll start off by dropping in one little O-ring making sure that it is seated correctly, nice and flat down in there, and one little washer on top of it. One spring, and then one mixture screw. I want to be very delicate here. I want to make sure that that screw gets seated properly and that there's no significant stoppage or tension or anything as I screw it down. I'm going to screw it down until it lightly seats, and that's it. There we are, lightly seated. Sometimes there's a small little porthole way down in these carburetors. I don't know if you can see the portholes there or not on the camera, but you can see the tip, the itty bitty fine little tip of this mixture screw protruding through that little porthole there. I've actually broken off a little tip before on a carburetor, and it was not fun to try to get out, so have to be very careful about seating these correctly and not screwing them down too far. Don't want to break one of these screws. Prior to taking all of these screws out, I did double check that they were the initial, or the setting that was on them was 2.5 turns out from lightly seated. I looked at the manual, and I believe that is the recommended initial setting for these screws. So I'm going to take these back out 2.5 turns. Those should be all set. Let's get the jets installed. And now the floats, the new float valve. Those can just kind of hang there. Okay. These gaskets, bowl gaskets, they look good. I'm probably taking a risk not putting in the new gaskets. I'm going to stick with the original gaskets. I think they'll be okay. If not, I will have to change them out. Another thing, when I got these carbs, this linkage adjuster here, which helps to control the balance of the carburetors, usually done with vacuum gauges, was bent and crunched. I bent that back, and I'm not sure if these carbs were fully adjusted with this being bent, or if this was bent after they had been adjusted, but I think this being bent may have impacted the balance of this carburetor, maybe compared to the other three. So I'm just going to do a little benchtop test here. I'm using a very fine, it's kind of like a tip cleaner, but it has a smooth end to it, just to kind of slide in between the carb body and the carb flapper here, just to check the distance to see if these are all kind of set the same. I may have to do some adjustment to this one, but it just barely sneaks through. Very slight resistance on these three. Let's check this one. Yeah, it feels pretty good.
So I'm just going to leave those alone then. They all feel pretty good as far as the bench top goes. And I'll probably do a vacuum sync once I get these on the bike and get them running. Get it running here. A little assortment here. That might work perfect. Very good. Very good. All right, everyone. Carbs have been rebuilt and they are ready to be mounted on the bike. And that's what I'm going to do in the next episode. I'm going to get everything prepared and cleaned up and ready for the carburetors, install some new manifold boots, and see if I can get this bike fired up and running and see how it sounds. This is Chris for CK Cycles. We'll see you later.